What if the most dangerous thing in your kitchen isn't junk food, but the bottle sitting next to your coffee maker that says supports heart health? Here's something almost nobody talks about. In the United States, vitamins are not approved by the FDA before they hit shelves. They don't go through the same pre-market testing as prescription drugs. A company can formulate a pill, print a label, make broad structure-function claims like supports immunity, and sell it nationwide without proving that what's inside matches what's on the bottle. Most people assume vitamins are regulated like medicine. They're not. Over the last 2 decades, the American supplement aisle has exploded. Entire walls of pharmacies are stacked with multivitamins, high-dose B complexes, magnesium blends, immune boosters, bright labels, clean fonts, words like natural, complete, advanced, clinically studied. But when you flip those bottles around and read the ingredient panel closely, something very different appears. Cheaper chemical forms of nutrients, fillers and binders that don't nourish anything, doses that look impressive but are poorly absorbed, proprietary blends that hide actual amounts. And in some cases, independent testing has found products containing far less of a nutrient than the label claims, or more than it should. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Because once you understand how the supplement industry really works, you start seeing patterns, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Let's start with one of the most recognizable names in American vitamins. If you grew up in the United States, you've seen it. Maybe your parents took it, maybe you still do. The silver bottle, the word complete, the implication that one tablet covers everything your body needs. Centrum's power isn't in its formula, it's in its familiarity. But when you examine what's actually inside many Centrum multivitamins, you begin to notice the difference between presence and performance. Take vitamin B12. In many Centrum formulations, the form used is cyanocobalamin. It's stable, it's inexpensive, it extends shelf life, but it's not the most bioavailable form. Your body must convert cyanocobalamin into methylcobalamin before it can use it efficiently. That conversion requires enzymatic steps that not everyone performs equally well, especially older adults. Then there's folate. Instead of methylfolate, the active form your body actually uses, you'll typically find folic acid. Again, cheaper, more stable, but not metabolized optimally by a significant portion of the population who carry MTHFR gene variants. Unmetabolized folic acid has been detected in blood samples of people taking synthetic folic acid regularly. Look at vitamin E. Many mass-market multis use DL-alpha tocopherol, the synthetic version, rather than mixed tocopherols found naturally in food. Synthetic vitamin E doesn't behave the same way in the body. None of these choices are illegal. They're cost-efficient. And that's the pattern. Centrum doesn't omit nutrients. It includes them, in forms that allow large-scale manufacturing at competitive prices. The label looks comprehensive. The ingredient forms tell a more nuanced story. When people say, it has everything, they're technically right. The better question is, in what form? 1A Day markets itself on simplicity. You take one pill and you're done. It sounds efficient, responsible, minimal, but the simplicity of the slogan doesn't necessarily reflect the complexity of absorption. Take magnesium. In many 1A Day formulas, the magnesium source is magnesium oxide. It contains a high percentage of elemental magnesium by weight, which looks impressive on the label. But magnesium oxide has relatively poor bioavailability compared to forms like magnesium glycinate or citrate. In simple terms, more of it passes through you unused. This is where label literacy matters. A bottle can list 100% of your daily magnesium requirement, but if the form isn't absorbed well, your cells may not see much of it. Minerals are often where cost-cutting hides. Oxides are cheaper. Chelated forms like glycinate cost more to produce. Multiply that cost difference across millions of bottles, and the financial incentive becomes obvious. 1A Day also uses common binders and fillers, substances like microcrystalline cellulose and magnesium stearate. These aren't inherently harmful, but they serve manufacturing efficiency, not nutritional value. They help machines press tablets quickly and uniformly. What makes one-a-day compelling in a video like this isn't scandal. It's contrast. The brand positions itself as streamlined health insurance, but the actual nutrient forms reveal a formulation built for scale, not optimization. It's not about what's missing. It's about what's substituted. Nature's Bounty is everywhere. Pharmacies, grocery stores, online marketplaces. It feels established. Established feels safe. But when independent labs over the years have tested supplements across the industry, variability has been a recurring theme, not only for one brand, but for many mass-market manufacturers. Nature's Bounty produces a huge range of products: fish oils, hair vitamins, high-dose single nutrients, multivitamins, and with volume comes variability. The more expansive a product line, the harder it becomes to maintain uniform excellence across every SKU. In some formulas, you'll find the same familiar pattern: synthetic B vitamins, inexpensive mineral forms, high milligram counts that sound impressive but don't always reflect biological usability. There's also the marketing language. Words like optimal, advanced, maximum strength. These are not regulated definitions. They signal superiority without specifying quality of form, sourcing transparency, or third-party testing standards. Here's something most consumers don't realize. Companies are not required to prove efficacy before selling a supplement. They're responsible for safety, but pre-market approval isn't required the way it is for pharmaceuticals. So when you see big claims on a bottle, understand that those claims operate within a regulatory loophole created in 1994 under the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. Again, legal, but different than most people assume. Nature's Bounty represents the broader industry pattern: scale first, refinement second. Spring Valley is Walmart's supplement brand, and Walmart's power is pricing. When a company competes primarily on affordability, something has to give. It's rarely the label aesthetics, it's usually formulation economics. Spring Valley supplements are manufactured by third parties and sold under Walmart's private label. This doesn't automatically mean poor quality, but private label manufacturing introduces layers between consumer and source. If you examine ingredient panels across multiple Spring Valley products, you'll often see reliance on the least expensive forms of vitamins and minerals: magnesium oxide, zinc oxide, cyanocobalamin, folic acid. You may not see robust third-party certifications like NSF, certified for sport, on most bottles. You may not find easily accessible certificates of analysis published publicly for batch testing. For many consumers, the appeal is clear: lower price, similar label claims. But similarity on paper doesn't guarantee equivalence in practice. The vitamin industry has a hidden hierarchy. At the bottom are bare minimum formulations designed to meet label claims at the lowest possible cost. In the middle are brands that meet regulatory standards but optimize profit margins. At the top are brands that invest heavily in testing, sourcing, and bioavailable forms. Spring Valley is designed to compete on shelf price, and shelf price rarely correlates with premium ingredient sourcing. That doesn't make it dangerous, it makes it economically engineered. Nature Made is more complex. Unlike some other mass-market brands, Nature Made has products that carry USP verification. USP, United States Pharmacopeia, means a product has been independently tested for quality, purity, and potency. That's a meaningful credential. But here's where nuance matters. Not every Nature-Made product carries USP verification, and even within verified products, the nutrient forms may still be conventional rather than optimal. For example, you may still see cyanocobalamin for B12 or magnesium oxide in certain formulas. USP verification confirms that what's listed is in the bottle and free from certain contaminants. It doesn't mean the form is the most bioavailable available. Nature-made sits in a gray zone. It's more quality-oriented than purely budget brands, but it still formulates for mass retail distribution. This is where consumer confusion peaks. Because once a brand earns partial credibility, most people assume all products under that name operate at the same standard. They don't. Understanding this difference between potency verification and formulation optimization is where informed buying begins. We're only partway through this breakdown. There are still 2 more mass market names to examine. Then we're going to flip this entirely and show you exactly how to spot a high-quality supplement without memorizing chemistry textbooks. GNC positions itself as the expert in the room. Walk into a GNC store and you're immediately surrounded by authority language. Clinically studied, pharmaceutical grade, advanced performance. The lighting feels intentional. The shelves feel curated. The staff often speak in confident tones about stacks, protocols, optimization. That atmosphere creates trust. But here's what most people don't realize. GNC sells both third-party brands and its own private label formulations. And those house brand supplements operate under the same economic pressures as any large retailer. Look at several GNC multivitamins or mineral products, and you'll find familiar patterns. Magnesium oxide instead of glycinate. Zinc oxide instead of chelated forms. Synthetic vitamin E instead of mixed tocopherols. High numerical doses that look impressive on the supplement facts panel, but don't necessarily translate into better cellular uptake. There's also the issue of proprietary blends. Some GNC products, especially in performance categories, group ingredients into blends without disclosing the precise amount of each component. That means you might see a 1,200 milligrams performance matrix, but you don't know how much of that is the one ingredient you actually care about. This isn't deception in a legal sense. It's permitted labeling structure, but it prevents full transparency. GNC's strength is retail presence. Its vulnerability is variability. Some products are decent, others are textbook mass-manufactured formulas dressed in clinical language. And here's what makes that powerful in a viral video: the disconnect between the expert aesthetic and the underlying ingredient choices. When a brand positions itself as premium, consumers assume premium sourcing. That assumption deserves scrutiny. Sundown Naturals is one of those brands that sits quietly on pharmacy shelves without drawing much attention. The bottles look clean. The price point is moderate. The marketing emphasizes non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, artificial flavors. And that's where modern supplement marketing has become sophisticated. Free from language doesn't automatically mean formulated optimally. Sundown Naturals, like many mid-tier brands, frequently uses conventional vitamin forms, folic acid, cyanocobalamin, standard mineral salts. You'll see respectable dosages and broad nutrient coverage, but rarely cutting-edge bioactive forms. There's also the issue of tablet compression. Lower-cost manufacturing often results in harder tablets that require stronger binders and disintegrants. While these additives are generally regarded as safe, they serve production efficiency, not nutrient absorption. One of the lesser discussed realities of supplements is disintegration time. If a tablet doesn't properly break down in the digestive tract, the nutrients inside may not be fully absorbed. Higher-end brands sometimes invest in capsule delivery systems or chelated minerals, partly to improve this variable. Sundown Naturals doesn't present itself as elite. It presents itself as clean and accessible. And for many consumers, that's enough. But accessibility and optimization are not the same thing. By now, a pattern should be emerging. This isn't about calling any of these brands toxic, it's about understanding tiers. Mass retail brands prioritize affordability, shelf stability, and regulatory compliance. Premium practitioner brands prioritize bioavailability, transparency, and rigorous testing. Once you see the difference, the labels start reading differently. Now here's where everything shifts. Because criticizing brands is easy. Knowing what to look for is powerful. Most people look at the front of the bottle. The real story is on the back. Start with the forms of nutrients. Magnesium oxide is inexpensive and contains a high percentage of elemental magnesium by weight, which makes labels look strong. But forms like magnesium glycinate, citrate, or malate are generally better absorbed. If you're buying magnesium for sleep or muscle support, the form matters more than the milligram number. Vitamin B12 appears in multiple forms. Cyanocobalamin is stable and cheap. Methylcobalamin is bioactive and more readily utilized. Hydroxycobalamin and adenosylcobalamin are also biologically relevant forms. The label will tell you which one you're getting, if you know to look. Folate is another big one. Folic acid is synthetic. Methylfolate, often labeled as L5-MTHF, is the active form. For individuals with certain genetic variations, this distinction isn't minor. Vitamin E should ideally appear as mixed tocopherols rather than only DL-alpha-tocopherol. The DL prefix indicates synthetic origin. Next, look for third-party testing. Certifications like NSF Certified for Sport or USP Verified mean a product has been independently tested for purity and potency. Not all high-quality brands carry these marks, but their presence is a strong signal. Also consider transparency. Does the company publish certificates of analysis? Do they explain sourcing? Do they avoid proprietary blends that obscure ingredient amounts? Then there's excipient load, the fillers and binders. Some are unavoidable in tablet manufacturing, but excessive additives can indicate cost-driven production rather than formulation-driven design. And finally, price tells part of the story. If a multivitamin claims to contain highly bioavailable chelated minerals, active B vitamins, mixed tocopherols, and premium sourcing, yet costs dramatically less than brands known for those features, something doesn't add up. High-quality raw materials cost more. Testing costs more. Smaller batch production costs more. The supplement aisle operates on an invisible spectrum. At one end is bare minimum compliance. At the other is practitioner-grade formulation. And that brings us to the brands that consistently sit closer to that upper end. Thorne is frequently recommended by physicians, dietitians, and performance specialists. And that reputation didn't appear by accident. One of Thorne's defining characteristics is form selection. You'll often find methylcobalamin instead of cyanocobalamin, methylfolate instead of folic acid, chelated minerals like magnesium bisglycinate rather than oxide. The difference isn't cosmetic. Chelated minerals are bound to amino acids, which can enhance absorption and reduce gastrointestinal discomfort compared to certain mineral salts. Thorne also subjects many products to rigorous third-party testing and maintains NSF Certified for Sport status on numerous formulations. That certification involves testing for contaminants and banned substances, critical for athletes, but also reassuring for general consumers. Another distinguishing factor is restraint. Thorne rarely overloads formulas with extreme megadoses purely for label appeal. Doses are often evidence-informed rather than marketing-driven. This is the opposite of more is better. It's closer to what is usable is better. The ingredient lists tend to be shorter, cleaner, less padded. Thorne isn't cheap, and that price difference reflects something tangible: sourcing, testing, and formulation choices. Pure Encapsulations built its reputation quietly. It wasn't born in supermarket aisles, it grew inside clinics, functional medicine offices, integrative practices, places where practitioners needed consistency, not just marketing claims. One of the most consistent themes in Pure Encapsulations formulations is minimalism. If a product contains magnesium glycinate, that's exactly what it says, without artificial colors, unnecessary coatings, or added flavoring agents. Many of their products are free from common allergens, and that hypoallergenic focus became one of their defining characteristics. But what separates them most isn't just what they remove, it's what they choose. Active B vitamins instead of synthetic stand-ins. Chelated minerals. clearly listed ingredient amounts without hiding behind proprietary blends, and detailed quality control standards, including raw material testing and finished product verification. When you compare a pure Encapsulations multivitamin side by side with a mass market equivalent, the difference doesn't scream at you from the front label. It whispers from the ingredient panel. You'll notice fewer unnecessary additives, more bioactive forms, thoughtful dosing rather than extreme numbers meant to impress. It feels formulated, not assembled. Life Extension occupies a slightly different position. It blends aggressive, science-forward branding with broad consumer accessibility. This is a brand that leans heavily into research citations. If you read their product descriptions, you'll often see references to clinical studies, mechanistic explanations, and detailed breakdowns of why specific forms were chosen. For example, instead of generic folate, they frequently use 5-MTHF. Instead of standard vitamin E, mixed tocopherols and tocotrienols appear in certain formulas. Instead of defaulting to oxide minerals, you'll see citrate or chelated forms. Life Extension also emphasizes in-house testing and quality assurance procedures, and they've built a reputation for publishing educational materials alongside their products. What makes Life Extension interesting in this lineup is balance. It's not strictly practitioner only. It's available online and through broader channels, yet it consistently formulates above the bare minimum. In other words, it proves that scale doesn't automatically require compromise if formulation philosophy leads the process. Vitamins were supposed to be simple. A small daily investment in your health. A quiet insurance policy. Something that helps, not something you have to investigate. But the supplement aisle isn't built on simplicity. It's built on perception. Two bottles can sit next to each other. Same promises, same milligrams, same words like complete and advanced. One is engineered for cost efficiency. The other is engineered for absorption. And unless you know how to read between the lines, you'd never know the difference. That's the game. Not poison versus safe, not good versus evil. Just formulation choices hiding behind familiar labels. The power shift happens the moment you stop trusting the front of the bottle and start reading the back. Because once you understand forms, certifications, and transparency, the illusion disappears. And when the illusion disappears, you don't buy based on branding anymore. You buy based on biology. The real question isn't, is this vitamin popular? It's, is this vitamin usable? And that's a completely different standard. If this changed the way you look at your supplements, take a look at the bottle in your kitchen tonight. You might see something you didn't notice before. Which brand shocked you the most? And if you want to see another breakdown like this, the next video is already waiting on your screen.